Sit right back and you'll hear a tale of a fateful trip that started from this tropic port aboard this tiny ship.
Welcome, friends, to Season 3 of Gilligan's Island, Goofs, Airs, and Oddities. By now you have seen quite a number of oddities, and the best part is there is still a whole season of more such gaffes just waiting to be discovered. Well, folks, there's something in this opening scene that needs to be stripped away and what lies beneath it laid bare. Unfortunately, I'm talking about the bottles on the table. We noticed earlier that the label on the radio was blacked out. In a number of shots throughout the series, you will see some sort of cover or label fixed over a prop's brand name. Here, the green bottle on Ginger's table has got to be Menin's Skin Bracer, but a heart-shaped doily is pasted over the label. As Ginger Vampirella rises in this scene, the shadow of the boom mic moves with her. Now, with the third season, the huts received a makeover. But here we see a segue of the old Skipper and Gilligan hut. Inside, however, we see the modified hut, which has a minnow life preserver on the door and a wooden window with porthole. Gilligan and Skipper are fishing. Gilligan's pole is white and the Skipper's is blue. The Skipper needs to sit down to get his foot out of the bucket, but the pole on his fishing rod makes him drop it in the lagoon. The Skipper cries out to Gilligan to get his pole. Gilligan reaches down to pick it up, but the next scene shows him giving the white rod to the Skipper. As Gilligan helps the Skipper get his foot out of the bucket, Skipper has the white rod, but the blue one has disappeared. The castaways have eaten radioactive vegetables. The professor has read some disturbing information from what we can only regard as some kind of medical book. Notice the studio floor segments showing that were not covered very well with sand. But what is more interesting is the book. Once again, a label of some kind has been slapped across the cover to disguise the title of the book. This book, however, has nothing to do with medicine. It is an Army TM technical manual from 1942 of the TM9-720 series. This particular one is the 726 manual for the M3 Stewart light tank. Exterior girl's hut, and then interior professor's hut. When Ginger emerges, the correct but updated third season professor's hut, which seems to double as the supply hut, is shown. Throughout the third season, we will continue to see exterior shots of the season 2 huts. As Gilligan falls to the ground from his hammock, you can see the outline of the padding under the sand used to soften the fall. For some strange reason, they have shot this scene with the new Season 3 life preserver on the door, but with the old Season 2 vertical window rather than the newer porthole window. Oh my, the Skipper and Gilligan blow another old vaudeville-era joke. The Skipper says, "Okay, Gilligan, you take this stuff in there and I'll wait out here." When Gilligan asks why he has to go in instead of the Skipper repeats, "All right, you go in there and I'll wait here." The first round of this joke should be, "You go in there and I'll wait here," followed by the reverse order, "All right, then I'll wait here and you go in there." Marianne has picked plastic flowers for sick Mr. Howell, but when she goes through the door, she has different flowers in her vase. The Skipper rushes in with oxygen from the boat. What boat? The minnow fell to pieces 2 years ago. Exterior old hut, interior new hut. The porthole is back again. Remember Lovey saying she knew nothing of sewing? But here she is telling Thurston the difference between knitting and petite point, though she says it with her French accent, petit pois. Thurston thinks the others are trying to kill him for his money. He will live like an animal on the other side of the island, so he's packing a suitcase. As he asks for the financial pages, he closes the suitcase. In the next scene, it is open again. Oddly enough, he makes a motion with the financial pages as if he's going to pack them, but then closes the case and leaves the papers out. It looks like he was simply talking too fast to keep up with his motions. Here is another diagram of the island. Again, the right-going exit from the lagoon to the sea is shown as left-going. Marianne suggests to the professor that he might try writing crib notes in the palm of his hand to help memorize the butterfly facts he is studying. The professor incredulously replies, "Mary Ann, please remember to whom you are speaking. I mean, after all, a professor with 6 degrees using crib notes." So the professor has 6 degrees. Now remember that, and we'll return to it later. Lord Beasley asks the professor to identify the large red butterfly with spots of brown. Obviously not the pussycat swallowtail he is looking for. But earlier he identified this as the real McCoy. Yes, it's the exact same prop butterfly. Okay, now we have an updated Gilligan and Skipper's hut shot, at least a night shot. But the next day shot is the old Season 2 hut. Would it really have been so hard or expensive to take a day and night Segway shot of all 4 huts? Of course, the next scene is an interior of the newer hut with porthole window. Gilligan and Skipper catch a top-secret briefcase that the skipper says may be valuable. Gilligan says he's right. It says here, genuine cowhide. Now there is a problem with this scene and the case as well. The first shot of the case shows 3 horizontal hinges. The second shot shows 2 vertical hinges. Notice the genuine cowhide stamp on the bottom. As the professor tries to pick the lock, the 3 hinges have returned. But in this scene, and others as well, the words genuine cowhide that Gilligan read on the top of the case aren't there. They only appear on the bottom. So how did Gilligan read it the first time, looking at the top of the case? Gilligan is sheriff and he stomps out a fire. Notice the asbestos pad underneath the recently burning logs. A search plane flies over the island, an island that looks nothing like Gilligan's Island. There is no lagoon, clearing, mountains, caves, huts, or anything. Gilligan breaks out of jail and his white cap falls behind him as he tries to stop it from falling with his right hand. In the next scene, he is still wearing it. Gilligan is sent to jail for fouling up a rescue. But wouldn't you think that after over 2 years of fouling up rescues that from this point forward, once a rescue is near at hand, they would lock up Gilligan until the rescue is in the bag? The Take-A-Dare contestant, played by Strother Martin, is on the island and is pilfering the castaway's stuff. Here, the professor is complaining that someone has taken his hammock. But he doesn't have a hammock. He is always shown sleeping on a bed. The only time I can remember the professor in a hammock was when he was trying to figure out how to destroy the meteor at the end of Season 2. But you can see he is in Gilligan's hammock. Well, Strother Martin is reclining in the hammock the professor never owned. You can see that there's nothing unusual about the top of his transmitter. But when Skipper and Gilligan charge into the scene, he reaches for a device that has magically appeared on top of the unit. One can clearly see that it is a fuse and fuse holder. As the skipper grabs the microphone, which is not even connected to the unit, you can see the phantom fuse holder has disappeared. Later, the professor says he can't fix the transmitter because of a part missing. He shows a receptacle from deep inside the unit as proof. Somehow the part has gone from a fuse and holder to a chrome receptacle and an unknown part. Hunter Jonathan Kincaid tells the skipper and professor that if they had any ideas about using his helicopter's radio, they can forget it. He's got the tubes. Now, one would think that the castaways would have learned something by now. Namely, larceny works both ways. Strother Martin took the fuse. The castaways could have also removed a part preventing Martin from also using the transmitter. Kincaid took the tubes from the radio. The castaways could have pilfered some other part of the helicopter so Kincaid couldn't leave without them. Eva Grubb gives the keys to her boat to the skipper if they promise to leave her on the island. When she finds out, through blabbermouth Gilligan, of course, that they intend to send a boat back for her, she removes the engine's spark plugs. But the castaways have the keys. She should be able to leave without them, but it is presumed they gave her the keys back, but I don't know why. Gilligan had Lord Beasley's flare gun. Why didn't they keep it until he agreed to fire off a flare? Beasley's flares without the gun are as useless as the gun without the flares. The point here is that it would have been hard, even for us fans of the show, to maintain that willing suspension of disbelief had the show gone for a 4th or 5th season. To test the professor's lie detector, Mr. Howell asks the professor what his degrees are. The professor says he has a BA from USC, a BS from UCLA, an MA from SMU, and a PhD from TCU. That makes 4 degrees. But remember what he said to Marianne? He is a professor with 6 degrees. Gilligan is playing with the lie detector. He gets a green light when he states he likes ice cream and he likes hot dogs. But he gets a red light and several honks from the foghorn when he says, I like spinach. But Gilligan does like spinach. In the radioactive vegetable episode, spinach is his favorite. The rock bowling ball crashes through the professor's table, but 2 pre-broken slats fail to break. Poor Gilligan is coming, so the professor tells the girls to act cheerfully and nonchalant. So they start whistling. Now correct me if I'm wrong, but are the girls whistling the show's theme song? The mate was a mighty sailing man, the skipper brave and sure. Listen again. I give them credit for that one. That was sharp. Well, the girls are going to give their brave Gilligan a kiss, but they receive no shock when they touch him with their hands, only when they kiss him. Here's the old vanishing milk trick, but unfortunately, the hose up Marianne's sleeve is very conspicuous. The Scorpio spacecraft is supposed to be in orbit over the island, but there are clouds towering over it. Here's another rendition of the island that is elongated and has a wide-open lagoon. As Gilligan, skipper, and professor try to steady the spacecraft, which is slipping into the lagoon, the skipper drops his bamboo cup, which shatters on the back of the shovel blade. Lovey and Thurston are hiding aboard the capsule, and Thurston has Teddy in hand. After the girls sneak on board, Mr. Howell tells Lovey that it's dark and he's afraid. No Teddy. Lovey opens up her bag and poof, Teddy is now inside. I love this scene. Gilligan and Skipper are lost. The skipper looks at the sky and says, judging by the sun, if we head east, we will eventually hit the beach. Skipper, you're on a small island. Any direction you head in will eventually take you to a beach. Now we know why he's a sailor. He's not so hot on land. Once more, the old Skipper Gilligan hut, and then interior professor's hut. You know, there are times when Gilligan, the all-un-American boy, depresses me. You know, having to watch Gilligan in one scene after another, in one episode after another, Gilligan resisting Marianne and Ginger's advances. Sometimes it's hard to remember that this show is supposed to be a comedy. Here, hypnotized Gilligan thinks he's Marianne. Remember my earlier assertion that Bob Denver was probably a heavy smoker? Here's a nicotine-stained tongue to prove it. I don't know if you can see it very well, but on my 37-inch screen it really shows up. The colonel is on the left and the general is on the right. The general asks the colonel if he thinks he should approve the jetpack for Air Force use. A lieutenant walks in and brings a message that one of their jetpacks washed overboard at sea. The colonel instructs the lieutenant to authorize the fleet to search for it. Since when do Air Force colonels have the power to authorize Navy missions? Here we go again, and all over again too. Exterior Skipper and Gilligan's hut, interior Professor's hut. Now notice that there is no latch on the door. But when Gilligan fakes the skipper into charging out the door and into the rain, there is a latch to secure the door with, as if that would really keep anybody out. However, in the final scenes of the same episode, the latch is missing again. The skipper and Gilligan are out to fatten up the carrier pigeon for a quick flight home. Notice that in this episode, the latch is back again. Walter the pigeon has taken off for civilization. He's up there somewhere, but you couldn't tell where from the castaway's gestures. Thurston, Lovey, and Gilligan are looking and waving to the left. The professor is looking straight ahead. Ginger and Marianne are looking straight up, and Skipper is looking and waving to the right. In Walter's last takeoff from the island, they're doing it again. Skipper, Gilligan, Professor, and Lovey are looking left. Ginger and Marianne are looking up and straight ahead. Thurston is pointing ahead but looking to the right. Now, I know this is sort of lame, but the season is coming to a close and it's there, so I'll point it out. This corridor has plain, unadorned beige walls, but the open door reveals a gray wall with baseboard and trim halfway up the wall. A plain and unadorned beige wall would have been perfectly accurate and easier to build. Well, I hope you had fun watching these clips. And believe me, this isn't all. There's other things I could have brought up. Again, it wasn't easy trying to determine what to put in and what to leave out. For instance, if the mine goes off with 600 pounds of explosives, powie! The whole island with its subterranean pockets of gas would blow up. But that didn't stop the professor from trying to stop the volcano from erupting by making a bomb from nitroglycerin powerful enough to blow the entire mountaintop off. Other episodes give multiple longitude and latitude coordinates for the island's location. And from one episode to another, the island is 250 miles southeast of Hawaii, then 200 miles south of Hawaii, then 500 miles east of Hawaii. Well, maybe that's the secret to the series' success. Facts and continuity doesn't seem to matter much when you're in love with the characters. This show was probably the most perfectly cast show in TV history. Well, thanks again for watching, and by all means, check out my other YouTube videos. Goodbye.